As always, links to help Palestinian families are down in the description. Please check them out if you have extra funds. I want you guys to start shipping Plankton and Mojo Jojo. Hello everyone. I was not as productive as I wanted to be this summer, and I'm really upset over that, but there's nothing I can do about that now. VeggieTales, the Powerpuff Girls, and SpongeBob SquarePants are among my favorite things to come out of the 90s. I have been itching to talk about all three of these shows again, and then I realized I could kill three birds with one stone by pitting them against each other. Now, just to make something clear, this video is a labor of love for all three of these shows. If I see any comments shitting on two of these shows in favor of the other, or vice versa, I'm going to be upset. Like, I know why I'm comparing these three shows, I just want an excuse to talk about my favorite aspects of all of them, but why are you? Also, I'd like to take a moment to say that it's been a while since I've been here, so please do me a big favor and refresh yourself on my boundaries, my subscribers especially. Y'all already know that I hate writing intros, so just roll with me. Obviously, each of these shows is going to be ranked based off of my personal opinion. You do not have to agree, I promise. It is going to be okay. If I did this correctly, every category is going to have a winner, which I talk about first in that section, followed by the next best show, followed by the next best show. However, I'm not really keeping track of points or anything. I'm not gonna announce a winner at the end of this video because quite frankly I do not care, and also I cut out a lot of categories. This video could have been 5 hours long. If I continue to write this video for all eternity, then literally any one of these shows could have won because some of these categories are so nonsensical. So yeah, it's less of me making this a competition and more of me just wanting an excuse to talk about these shows. Alright, let's see if I can keep this under 20 minutes. Classic SpongeBob honestly has enough humor to carry the entire show to the first place spot.
Hey buddy, you need a ride? I was just on my way to the Big Doofus convention.
To talk about the humor, let's take one episode from the classic era. I'm gonna go with SpongeBob Meets the Strangler. Plenty of SpongeBob episodes have these big, funny, comedic moments that really stick in your mind, like the Spiky Cleats thing, or the characters having back-to-back parties at SpongeBob House. Two gags that make zero logical sense but are just so fucking funny. Especially the Spiky Cleats thing. In the frame right before that happens, he is wearing his normal shoes, and then in the next frame, he has the cleats on. Why does he have the cleats on? Where did they come from? And also, he said, "Hop up on my shoulders." How did you land on his face? You weren't even aiming for the shoulders. It makes no sense, but it's so fucking fun. And then the fact that the Strangler runs around for 6 hours and then just pulls SpongeBob out of his eyes. You couldn't have done that 6 hours ago. You could have saved yourself a lot of trouble, I think. But anyway, it's not just these big, funny comedic moments, it's also the smaller jokes that they sneak in there, like the cops putting an excessive amount of handcuffs on the Strangler or the 5-cent tag on the phony mustache, that really make this episode of SpongeBob, along with a lot of others. Not to mention the slapstick, the visual gags, the wordplay, the general silliness. There's a lot going on in the humor department, and I think that's how the show manages to be so funny. But make no mistake, the comedy in the Powerpuff Girls and the Vegetable Show is really strong too.
Hello, Warden. I need a babysitter. Yeah, full pardon. Bye.
The only way the prince would come to our show is if he thinks it'll be even more impressive than the Star of Christmas.
Short of kidnapping, which I hear is illegal now.
People don't meme on these shows properly, and that's a shame because there's a lot to work with here. You guys are sleeping on these shows, what's going on? Maybe the reason for that is because these two shows rely a little bit more on the character interactions for their humor, I think. The joke is funnier if you know who these people are. Both of these shows also lean more into general silliness. What I mean by that is that you have an episode of the Powerpuff Girls where Mojo Jojo, the main villain of the show, is the girl's babysitter, and they drive him insane by acting like 5-year-olds. Or the fact that the character that is literally supposed to be the devil dresses like this and lives in an apartment where he just lives like a normal person. All three of these shows look fantastic in their own ways, but I'm gonna give this one to the Powerpuff Girls. One of the Powerpuff Girls' greatest strengths is its action, and between these three shows, I appreciate the animation itself, as in the movement of the characters, the most here, especially in seasons 2, 3, and 4. Oftentimes when I'm watching the show, I find myself going frame by frame during the fight scenes, because I just gotta know how they did that. I adore the fight choreography in the show. The girls are always finding cute and creative ways to take down their villains. but they also get shockingly violent at times. Like, the show is rated Y7, why is there gore? Look at this moment from Mr. Mojo's Rising, where Mojo knocks the professor out and the impact frames spell out Mojo. I will be stealing that, that's really cool. Or, like in this episode where the girls are recounting a fight that literally just happened and the art style changes depending on who's talking. VeggieTales' first episode came out in 1993, so it's a lot older than these other two shows, but more importantly, it was the first CG animated television show ever. This was years before Toy Story, and I feel like people don't know that, even within the animation community, and it genuinely drives me insane.
As we went into the first show, nobody had really done that with 3D before.
Pixar was doing some very early work at the time, doing some shorts, but this was, 8 years before Toy Story.
Well, 1993, we were technically the first American CG series.
It hadn't been done, that trail had not been walked before. So, we think we should be able to walk it, but nobody's walked it yet, so we're going to have to be the pioneers to blaze that trail.
It was a really crazy idea. There was very little money. It was this wonderful underdog situation, which I love the whole idea behind it. It's like, well, let's just try to pull this off.
If you guys don't start giving this show its flowers, I'm going to become problematic. Anyway, the animation definitely looks objectively better in the 2010s, but honestly, I adore the primitive look from the 90s way more. I even like the parts of it that are technically not good, like when characters clip through things, or when stories just took place in Nowhere's Land, or like the occasional choppy movements. While, of course, I do love SpongeBob's whole aesthetic in the first 3 seasons, I love the underwater atmosphere, I love the water texture on certain items, I love the random ass CG, they do get points off for not keeping this aesthetic as the show went on, and they get double points off for seasons 6 through 8. I hate the animation in those seasons so much, especially season 8. Actually, season 8 might be my least favorite season of the show in general. It's just so boring and visually dull. However, It's a SpongeBob Christmas and Frozen Face Off do not count, those episodes are great. Like most people, I don't love the animation in 10 through 12 either, but I'm actually okay with it in the seasons after that. Like, yeah, it's off, but they kind of toned it down, and it's definitely a step up from season 8, so. My favorite thing is when I post VeggieTales music and my mutuals start talking about oh hey, this is actually a banger. Number one, I don't appreciate the use of the word actually, and also, what do you think is in the background of every single one of my videos?
Pizza angel, please come to me. Tomato sauce and cheese so gooey. Pizza angel, I'm on my knees. You'll live forever in my memory.
Maybe it's not really fair to the other two shows because they are musicals, but it's no contest. When it comes to like songs with lyrics, SpongeBob and Powerpuff Girls have nothing on some of the show's best material. I am so serious. I genuinely challenge you all to find any piece of music that is better than the saxophone interlude in the Larry Boy theme song. However, as for background tracks, I'm gonna give it to the Powerpuff Girls. While SpongeBob's background tracks are more iconic, the Powerpuff Girls soundtracks just go so much harder. You take a listen to Mojo Jojo's theme song and tell me that that's losing out to tomfoolery. Before we move on, I know I shat on season 8, but there's a song from the episode Sweet and Sour Squid.
Skinny arms are flapping, long nose looks real swell, shiny head is bulging, he plays really well. On the fact that he's a genius, you can surely bet this strange looking blue guy sure plays a neat clarinet.
Has anyone ever attempted to cover this song and actually make it sound good? I think it has potential to be a banger. If anyone wants to do that or already has, please point me in that direction. I really want to listen to this song. It's been in my head for days, but first of all, I don't think they officially released it. And also, I don't want to listen to the version that's in the episode because it doesn't sound good on purpose, but still. If you're so inclined, someone please do that and show me. All 3 of these movies are absolutely peak. I mean that literally, by the way. All 3 of these shows could have ended right here, and none of them would have had the chance to go downhill. VeggieTales still had a lot of really good episodes to come out after Jonah and just became kind of bland in its last 6 years. I absolutely refuse to touch the seasons that came after the Powerpuff Girls movie. As far as I'm concerned, the show ended at season 4, but at least they had the decency to cap it at 2. You know, they didn't keep the show going on for like 10 years longer than it had to. And honestly, SpongeBob has been going on for so long that I don't even want it to end at this point. Not because I'm actively keeping up with the newer seasons, but because it would send me into a midlife crisis. I've literally never known a world without SpongeBob. What am I supposed to do when it ends? Now, I just gave SpongeBob the winning spot for humor, VeggieTales for music, and Powerpuff Girls for animation. Those things would obviously hold true for their respective films. There are plenty of people out there that could quote this entire film front to back. There is genuinely not a single skip on the Jonah soundtrack, and unless you're prone to seizures, this movie is eye candy. But now I'm gonna switch things up. I'm gonna discuss these films using this movie's animation, this movie's humor, and this movie's music.
What'll it be, fellas? Mustard or ketchup?
I can't imagine that most of my followers don't know the plot to the SpongeBob movie, so forgive me if I kinda like breeze through this. I might be biased or something, but I agree with the general consensus that SpongeBob definitely looks the best in 2D. This movie and the 2/3 of the second movie just looks so good. Not that the CG doesn't look good in the SpongeBob movie 2, but like, come on. They really went all in on the underwater environment for this movie. Like, I found myself staring at the backgrounds the entire time I was watching, and that's what made me decide I was gonna talk about this movie's animation. I've never seen this film in theaters, so I just have to imagine how it might have looked on the big screen, and I'm sure it looked fantastic. Question, do people prefer the movie design of King Neptune or the show design? Personally, I like his movie design the most. They make him so intimidating yet so goofy looking at the same time.
My crown is in the Forbidden Cell City! Plan Z. I love Plan Z. Prepare to burn, crabs. Wait, Neptune, please, I'm begging you!
I've watched this movie a million times, and I'm always like, whoa, Plankton deadass was going to get Krabs killed. Like, actually. I, for one, really want to know how they pitched the scene where they animate David Hasselhoff's pec muscles. Like, whose idea was it for that to be a genuine plot point? Like, this scene was 100% necessary. This is how SpongeBob and Patrick get back to Bikini Bottom in time to save Mr. Krabs. And the network executives surely had to approve of this. Did they pitch this scene with a straight face? I'm really curious.
Do what's right, don't provoke. Put 4 tassels on your cloak. Do not laugh, it's not a joke. A message from the Lord.
The humor in the Jonah movie is pretty decent, I'd say.
I'm afraid the only thing left is to be thrown into the sea.
Aw, you don't have to do that. We got a plank. We can just walk off.
Yes, thank you. You're too kind. Well, Jonah, old buddy.
We don't really sail. At all. So the answer is no.
Money is no object.
Next up, Tarshish!
It was nice knowing you. Normally you'd be entitled to a refund, but under the circumstances, you know, with you dying and all. No, I don't suppose a refund would do me much good now, would it? Ah, thanks. You're a trooper. Ain't a trooper?
But the funniest thing about this movie is probably the story itself. Like that general silliness I mentioned earlier. This movie is very out of pocket.
Nice one with the lights, Bob. My pleasure. For the next song, maybe I can drive into the river!
Yeah! Drive into the river, Bob! Oh, drive into the river, Bob!
Or maybe you could help me with the map!
Oh, I'm sorry.
First of all, Bob Jr.'s dad and the kids are on their way to see a concert, right? Dad Asparagus, I don't know what was going through his mind in this movie. Like, I understand that the children are excited and you want to indulge them. Why the hell do you have a guitar in the passenger seat when you're supposed to be on navigation? What is wrong with you? Like, Dad Asparagus repeatedly hits Bob in the back of the head with this guitar while he's driving, and I'm just like, do you not want to get to the concert? It's like, the show tries to frame Bob like he has anger issues and like he's doing entirely too much. While occasionally that is true, he's really not that unreasonable. Like, hello?
Tow truck's on its way. You know, Junior, I love your dad and all, but that's the last time I pick him for a co-pilot.
But anyway, so they end up crashing because why wouldn't they? And they end up staying at a restaurant where the pirates who don't do anything aka Larry, Pa Grape, and Mr. Lent, tell the gang the story of Jonah, which is a story about compassion and mercy. Both the SpongeBob movie and this movie are about compassion. It's, interesting. By the way, Junior is also mad at Laura for something unrelated. I just thought I'd mention that. Jonah was a prophet who got eaten by a whale after ignoring God's request to deliver a message because he didn't want the people of Nineveh to have a shot at redemption because he hates them and wants them all to eat shit and die.
The Ninevites were so mean, in fact, that most Israelites, including Jonah, wished God would just wipe Nineveh off the face of the earth.
You're probably at least aware of this Bible story. It's a pretty famous one. The scene where they decide to toss him into the ocean is so chaotic. First of all, there is a massive storm on the ship, right? So all the characters are kind of panicking a little because they're like, we're going to die out here. And the crew are all wondering, what is going on? Why is God so angry that he's sending this massive storm? And Jonah, knowing full well why this storm is happening, is just kind of like, yeah, I don't know, it's kind of crazy. So the way they end up deciding who God is mad at is playing a game of Go Fish. It's so unnecessarily intense. And then they throw Jonah into the sea, which they acknowledge is basically murdering him. And he's wearing like a shower cap and one of those like inflatable pool thingies. This show will take such serious content and make it so unserious. It's so funny. Anyway, Jonah's kind of bummed out about the fact that he's going to be digested, but God sends a bunch of angels to tell him to beg for forgiveness, and this is actually one of the few times that the show actually goes gospel.
See, God's got a mercy, God's got a love, but now he's gonna lend no helping hand from up above. I can't glaze this movie's soundtrack because I decided to glaze the Powerpuff Girls soundtrack.
But anyway, Jonah's dancing along, so it seems like he got the message. And Jonah swears to God that he'll deliver the goddamn message if he decides to spare his life, and so he does. Jonah gives the message, and the Ninevites promise they'll do better from now on. However, Jonah still fully expects God to wipe the city out because he still hates them and still wants them to eat shit and die. And he gleefully sits on the side of a cliff, waiting for them to be burned alive. And when God doesn't do that, he just lays there bitching and moaning, and the story ends right there. Now, the movie itself doesn't end there. They have a big musical number at the end for the kids, but yeah. The main protagonist of this G-rated film learns nothing and throws a temper tantrum because God decided not to wipe a whole population off the face of the earth.
Dear Princess Celestia, I wanted to share my thoughts with you. I didn't learn anything. I was right all along.
Oh my god, chat, before we move on, I have to bring up the outtakes for this movie because they're so fucking funny, and I was like debating whether or not I should bring them up, but I have to. Let me just play some of my favorites.
Well, nobody got hurt.
If you hadn't been teasing me with it, we wouldn't be in this mess, Laura.
You are so vain. I bet you think this movie's about you. Don't you?
What?
Don't you? Don't you? Don't you? Don't you?
Oh, good one, boys. Thank you, yes. Very funny. Bad underwear.
Grandma, I sure do love your pie.
Is this the road to Tipperary?
Here, kitty, 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 kitty. Here, kitty.
Told them what they were doing wrong. They said they were sorry.
The Powerpuff Girls movie has such a good soundtrack. My god! This is an origin story for the girls, and this is how it opens.
I must profess, sir, this man holds the ingredients to Townsville's salvation. This man, known simply as the Professor.
While the professor is putting together the sugar, spice, and everything nice, Mojo Jojo is destroying his lab, while the track Monkey on the Loose plays, and we see the opening credits. This opening is so cool, and it's made even cooler by the soundtrack. I really wish I could use this song in my videos, but I don't because it never quite fits the tone of what I'm talking about. My favorite part is when Mojo knocks the professor into the Chemical X, which is a major plot point in the series, and then it hard cuts to directed by Craig McCracken. I'm gonna start opening my videos like this, man. Like, I could use a self-esteem boost. And then this song ends with the Powerpuff Girls jingle along with the girls giggling in the background. This entire movie is very dark, but it's also very cute, much like the show itself. Like for instance, take the song Fun Day at Home. This plays while the professor and the girls are spending time together and setting up the girls' bedroom. It's a very cute scene, I love it.
I think it's a little dark. Well, I like it dark. Some windows might be nice.
Yeah, I could see some windows. Right about here. I'll call a contractor tomorrow. Or that works too. Who's hungry?
You guys are very familiar with the song Tag. It's in all of my videos. In this part of the movie, the girls are playing tag and kind of destroying the town because they were just born and they don't know any better. Don't worry about that for now. This song is my favorite from the OST. The music is very playful, like a children's game, but you can also tell who's it by the musical cues. It's so good. Then of course you have the song Mojo in His Glory, which is just a glorified version of Mojo's theme song after he tricks the girls into helping him build his lab and execute his evil plan. And this movie ends on the song, For the First Time, the Day is Saved, while the girls triumphantly fly through the city. The song is so good that I'm actually gonna go ahead and end this video with this track, if it's all the same to you guys.
I'm right here to stay when I want to pray. I'll be right in my prime. Living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time.
Help Wanted makes me kind of sad when I think about the current state of SpongeBob, because you can feel the love and the passion that went into the show through this first episode, and it's just not there anymore. It hasn't been there for a while. I know I've gone on record and said that I like modern SpongeBob, and I stand by what I said. I don't go out of my way to watch the episodes in my free time, and obviously I have standards and stuff, but I still wish that the show had ended when it was supposed to, if for no other reason than to preserve the creator's vision. You know what I mean? But anyway, back to the episode. Outside of my appreciation for it from an artistic standpoint, I just really love this episode's simplicity. Like, it doesn't even hit the 11-minute mark, but they knew what this show was from the beginning. It was a simple comedy show about a plucky young sponge whose biggest dream is to work in fast food. Fun fact, this is one of the few episodes that Stephen Hillenburg himself actually wrote. He only wrote a handful of episodes in season 1, and then from there he was just the executive producer on that show for the next couple of seasons until he left and handed the reins over to Paul Tibbitt in 2004. Or 5, whenever season 4 was.
What are you gonna do?
I'm going to call the police.
No, you don't need to do anything.
What? Why?
Because...
God is bigger than the boogeyman.
I think having our first impression of the show be 2 grown Christian men breaking into a child's bedroom to preach to him about God was an interesting but effective choice, and I also think that having the first lesson of this show be about how to handle fear was an even more effective choice. Like, the first episode couldn't have been about forgiving others or loving the people around you even if they're different from you because we're all fearfully and wonderfully made, you fucking assholes! No, it had to be an episode that teaches Christian children how to deal with their fears.
But not too scared.
Oh, well, yeah.
Even as an ex-Christian/atheist, I love how this show handles its teachings. I promise you guys, it is not the same Christianity that is causing all of our problems right now. Monkey See, Doggy Do is a much better introduction to the Powerpuff Girls than the episode that they actually produced first, which was Insect Inside. For cartoons like this, I think a good first episode could just be any standard episode of the show, but does also give you a very clear glimpse into who the characters are and what they're like, and I think this was achieved by all 3 of these episodes, so that's good. Like, hypothetically, all 3 of these episodes could have been at any point of the series except for maybe Help Wanted, but, you know, they work the best as a first episode. It's solid, but I don't often rewatch this one. My favorites from season 1 are like The Riding Rock Boys, Ice Sword, Telephonies, and Just Another Manic Mojo. I don't have much to say about this episode other than the fact that Alexi watched it and didn't like it at all, and I was just like, that's probably one of the worst episodes to have a problem with. Like, how do you expect to handle Monkey See, Doggy 2? You know what I mean? I think between all of the reboots that these shows have pumped out, the show I have the most hatred for is Powerpuff Girls 2016, and it's not even close. The Powerpuff Girls reboot is to me what I'm sure Teen Titans Go is to the fans of the original Teen Titans, which is actually a topic I'd like to touch on someday. Every little thing about this show is irritating. The animation, the characterization, the character designs, the humor. Maybe I just gravitate towards peace, but I have never seen a children's show with so many separate controversies. You had 5-year-old girls throwing it back twice. The fact that they did that twice is actually so crazy. Like, maybe I could excuse the first time, but it's like, by the second time, you knew people weren't gonna like this, and you put it in the show anyway. What the fuck? You could have so easily cut that scene out. And then you had the disastrous attempt at a trans allegory, the Jared controversy, the addition of the character Bliss. I'm sure there's at least one that I'm forgetting, but it's slipping my mind right now. You get it. The show was awful in so many ways. It's honestly incredible. Other than a select few things, such as the We've Got the Power music video,
If anything happens to her, you need to be ready to take the role.
Yes, what a shame it would be if anything were to happen to our dear Bubbles.
I fucking hate this show so bad. I'm so glad it's not like Teen Titans Go and still having episodes made on it. No, they ended it a while ago. They didn't officially end it, but like, come on, it's over. And then there's the live-action CW show, which I suppose doesn't even count because, you know, it never got made. And the fact that it never got made is probably that show's best quality. Now that VeggieTales in the House is a decade old and people have seemingly healed from this whole ordeal, I'm just gonna go ahead and say that it really was not as bad as people said that it was. Which I know is cliche, but like, it really wasn't. Like, yeah, it did suck balls, but like, in a good way, I think. Honestly, its biggest problem is that it involved these characters specifically. I actually watched almost every single episode when I was a kid, and I derived a lot of ironic enjoyment out of it. Like, you know, it is funny in a sense.
Archibald won't be attending, but he sent me in his place. I'm ready for the ball.
Hey, Casper, laugh for me, would you?
However, I did rewatch it as an adult, and it was honestly just really boring. There's not really much that you can get out of this show if you've watched a cartoon before. Also, I don't quite see the point in keeping only Phil and Mike and replacing everybody else with the Animaniacs. Hi. So, courtesy of the unofficial VeggieTales podcast channel, I found the reason. It's because they didn't want to pay him. The VeggieTales show did have the original cast and creators, so it is the best one here, but the thing with the VeggieTales show, I swear to God people have already forgotten that it came out. I have not seen anyone talk about it since 2022. It is technically a good show. You know, it is well written, but I don't know if I like it. You know, I don't want to say that I don't like it. I don't even want to think that I don't like it, but I mean, maybe I need to revisit it again. I haven't touched it in almost 3 years. Matter of fact, I haven't even finished watching it. I do not recall watching the last episode, or even the second to last episode. I had a bunch of stuff that I wanted to complain about, and then I found out that the reason why the show felt so off was because Phil wrote a lot of it, but he did not direct it, which I can now see makes all the difference. But either way, I don't think that I like the stage motif. I prefer when the characters are just acting and not like acting like they're acting. You know what I mean? But they did try to be a little more immersive in the later episodes, which I do appreciate. It's like the show was not bad. It really wasn't.
Who would kidnap Bob? Space aliens.
Or worse, vegetarians.
What are kids into these days? Suspenders? No. Hip-hop musicals about the founding fathers.
Camp Coral had a lot of controversy surrounding it because it's dubious whether Nickelodeon went ahead and took Steven Hillenburg's passing as an opportunity to make spin-offs that he would have objected to otherwise. I'm not gonna tell you what my opinion is on that, but like, if you know anything about my personality, then you already know what I think. But what I will say is that this controversy has nothing to do with my opinion, which is that Camp Coral is mid. Slightly worse than the season of SpongeBob that was airing at the time. There's really not much else to say on the matter. There's nothing that happens in that show that couldn't have happened in the original. That's it. The Patrick Star Show is okay, I suppose, but the premise of a guy who produces a cute little show with his loved ones would have been so much better if it was literally anyone else besides Patrick Star. The show is kind of cute, though. I like seeing all the younger designs for the characters, and the environments and stuff are really nice, and Patrick's family isn't insufferable, aside from Grandpat. I actually like it a lot better than Camp Coral. However, I promise you, you are not missing much by skipping it. See, SpongeBob and Patrick are a much more iconic duo, but many have pointed out that their friendship, for a large portion of the series, is very toxic from Patrick's end. Which is awful because I love Patrick, but I can't defend him here. I used to have a friend like Patrick, so I can tell you from experience that, yeah, he's awful. Like, yeah, Patrick is very supportive of SpongeBob and looks up to him in the first few seasons, and I love him for that, but shitty friendships tend to start out positively and then they just kind of devolve. And honestly, Patrick has had some awful moments even in the first 3 seasons. All I'm gonna say is, as much as Bob and Larry butt heads, he would never, in a million years, participate in No Bob Day. None of the cast members are horrible enough to host such a day in the first place, but even if they were, Larry would shut that shit down immediately. Larry and Bob are not perfect, but their relationship is nowhere near toxic, in my personal opinion. Larry is very supportive of Bob and wants to help him achieve his dreams. I was thinking about this while I was watching the first SpongeBob movie. Patrick is such a good friend in that movie, and the same cannot be said for the second movie.
Yeah, loyalty. I've got SpongeBob! He's over here!
It's like occasionally Larry will just kind of do whatever he wants and not really take Bob's feelings into consideration, and Bob doesn't really mention that something's bothering him. He just kind of looks at Larry and expects him to understand that he's upset, which Larry sometimes does and sometimes doesn't. It's kind of hit or miss. But like, you know, they resolve that issue eventually. I really wish that SpongeBob had been consistent with having ambient water sounds in the background. Many have expressed this sentiment, but it really did contribute to the show losing its charm, albeit very subtly. Before I give the Powerpuff Girls its flowers in this category, I mean, come on, it was no contest. I'd like to point out this moment from Endangered Love. He fell face first, by the way. I am not watching the fuck-ass Noah's Ark episode. Like, I hate it so much more than VeggieTales in the House. I don't know what it is about this specific episode that repels me from it. Probably because it makes no goddamn sense to use the goddamn Netflix models when this is technically a part of the original show. And then they just had to release it on my birthday. Like, you guys could not have waited a day later? For all intents and purposes, I count the SpongeBob movie as that show's finale. However, I already talked about this movie and we don't do duplicates here, so I'm just gonna watch the most recent episode. Although I already know that whatever it is, does not hold a candle to the Powerpuff Girls 10-year anniversary special. The most recent episode as of writing this is the Timeline Twist-Up episode. I watched that episode when it aired and I had no idea what to make of it.
1 eternity later.
Okay, I just finished watching the episode and I still don't know what to make of it. As soon as I saw this shit was 44 minutes long, I already knew I was done for, and I was quickly proven correct because it took forever for the plot to kick in. I think it took a little less than 10 minutes. Basically, in the special, Patrick's family time travels back to season 1 of the show and alter those episodes, so the characters have to go back and fix it. But first they have to like watch the episode because this is a clip show type situation we got going on. There were some jokes I liked, and I suppose seeing the new animators draw in the old style is cool. I like the one where Patrick's mom goes back to the episode Neptune Spatula, mostly just because Patrick's mom is a very pleasant character.
I'll just scrub it nice and clean. Here you go, sweetie.
Thanks, Mrs. Starr.
I absolutely hated the one where Grandpa goes back to help Wanda because I'm very protective of that episode and I fucking hate Patrick's grandpa.
You look kind of familiar. I'm just a simple sponge.
On second thought, never mind. They reference the musical. 10 out of 10 episode. Can I move on to the Powerpuff Girls now? While I do have my nitpicks with this episode, I do think it is a very wonderful send-off to the original show. It does have some stupid moments, way more than I remember actually, but that's fine. The joke is on me because to its credit, I was smiling and laughing the whole time, so you know, they got me. This episode was supposed to be 44 minutes long, but it got cut down all the way to 22, and the pacing is lightning fast. And you know what? I think that works. The characters are racing against the clock to find the key to the worlds, so the special should feel fast. Also, Mojo Jojo sings the song Everybody Wants to Rule the World, and I unironically love this cover so much. Like, once you get past the fact that it is Mojo Jojo singing, it sounds really good, like I'm being so for real.
My own remorse. Help me to decide. Help me make the most of freedom and of pleasure. Nothing ever lasts forever. Everybody wants to rule the world.
I just finished watching the episodes for the last section, and I was like, wait a minute. Plankton and Mojo could be their own category. And then I was like, wait, can they would a ship between Mojo and Plankton actually work? Like, they're both evil geniuses and they want to take over the world, so they share common interests. They're both also kind of dense, in a way. Do you guys think that their egos would get in the way? I think if they can build mutual respect for each other, which they are capable of doing, then they would be really good partners in crime. It looks like this is an original thought. I can't find any evidence that people ship these two. I think that Mojo could very easily steal the Krabby Patty secret formula. First of all, he doesn't have history with Krabs, so he has no reason to hold back. Plus, Krabs is not familiar with Mojo's strategy the way he is with Plankton. Mojo is established to be good at stealing stuff anyways, so as long as the girls don't show up, he could take it, no sweat. However, Plankton could not defeat the girls or take over Townsville. That has a lot more to do with the girls being absolute powerhouses. I mean, very few fictional characters could actually beat them. Townsville also isn't hyper-reliant on the Krabby Patty the way Bikini Bottom is, or any specific item for that matter, so he really has nothing to work with. The girls could beat him while having a conversation about something completely unrelated. It wouldn't even be a challenge. This is the real reason that Steven Hillenburg didn't want any crossovers. Powerpuff Girls and SpongeBob were airing at the same time. This is the exact situation he was trying to avoid. Nobody wins this category, I just wanted to share these. For VeggieTales, we have God Wants Me to Forgive Them, which I feel should be self-explanatory. Are You My Neighbor? I like this title just because this was back when the titles were actually questions, and I really like how this one ties into the moral. And finally, Sheer Luck Holmes and the Search for the Golden Ruler. First of all, Sheer Luck Holmes is funny by itself, and then you have the Golden Ruler part. It's a gold ruler with the golden rule written on the back of it. That's... what's wrong with this show? For the Powerpuff Girls, we have Just Another Manic Mojo, Not So Awesome Blossom, and Cop Out. Now you might be thinking, what's so special about that title, Lasso? So the episode that it comes from is very mid, but basically, a police officer gets fired because he's a fucking dumbass, and he blames the Powerpuff Girls for losing his job. So he captures them and threatens to drop them into acid. The cops try to save them, but they're cops, so they fail, and the girls do in fact get dropped into the acid. But it turns out that they're actually impervious to acid, and they didn't realize, so they're fine. They fucking copped out on the ending. They made the episode being lame the joke. You just know they were snickering in the writer's room. Because you watch this episode and you think, oh yeah, okay, it's called Cop Out because this cop gets kicked out of the police department. That makes sense. And then you're watching the episode and you're like, what the fuck? The girls are impervious to acid and they had no idea? Is that even like consistent in the series? I mean, they're established to be impervious to lava most of the time. So why wouldn't they know that they're impervious to acid? That's such a cop out. Oh. This title single-handedly takes this episode from a 5 out of 10 to a 6 out of 10, in my personal opinion. Now this might not be entirely fair, but SpongeBob has so many episodes that I'm just gonna share a bunch of titles. Ahem. Naughty Nautical Neighbors, All That Glitter, Squid Ink Box, SB129, Smooth Jazz at Bikini Bottom, Are You Happy Now, Atlantis Squarepantis, Rockabye Bye Val, Student Driver, Survivor, and this one. I'm not saying that combination of words out loud, but I would love to know what that conversation was like with the executives. The Great Patty Caper could have been on here if they'd gone with the title Mystery with a Twistery, but they didn't, so oh well. Saber Sparks' video on the fall of VeggieTales has over 4 million views at the time that I'm writing it. I watched that video when it aired and I was just so disappointed because I already knew all the information that was in it. Anyway, VeggieTales' downfall is another reason why it drives me insane that nobody talks about it in the animation community. This show should have entire college courses written about it. It is a prime example of networks treating their creators like garbage because it was cheaper to do so. If somebody treated me the way Phil Fisher was treated on my own goddamn show, I would quite literally fist fight somebody into the pavement. I'm a tiny person, I'm 5'2". I'm jumping up on your shoulders and pounding you into the ground. Henry Danger style. When Trolls 3 and Puss in Boots got popular, I was like, wait, don't I hate Universal? And by extension DreamWorks? But I couldn't remember why. Now I remember. This is why. Although I suppose it's kind of hard to hate DreamWorks specifically when this kind of treatment is present all over the industry. Sorry, I had to switch locations, so if the audio sounds different, that's why. Like, no matter who bought this show, it was always going to be just another example of corporate greed winning again. And now the people in charge of the 2026 Larry Boy movie, a movie that nobody really asked for, by the way, have the testes to bring generative AI near these characters. The first CG animated TV show. The first At first, it's both weird and flattering. And then after a while, you get tired of seeing it. It loses its preciousness after a while. One night, I was really beat. We worked late, and we went to get some food at some takeout place. And I leaned over this gumball machine, just exhausted, and there was SpongeBob looking back at me. And I was just like, oh brother. Most people agree that SpongeBob should have ended after the movie and season 3. Personally, if Nickelodeon had to have its cash grab, I would have given it up to season 6. I understand that people don't like season 6, but I'm quite nostalgic for it, in a sense, and I'm not willing to give up the episode No Hat for Pat or the song A Day Like This. But the franchise absolutely did not need anything from season 7 onwards. Well, other than the second movie, It's a SpongeBob Christmas, Gary being voiced by Keith David, Mind the Gap because of the edits, the Big Birthday Blowout episode, and Plankton saying this.
And the Krabby Patty formula will be mine!
Like I said, I don't mind the newer seasons. I can see that the writers were really trying to make good television, and I appreciate that, but I don't blame anybody for hating them, or what they represent. This show has truly lost the plot and become so far removed from what it once was, and that's all thanks to corporate greed from Viacom and Nickelodeon. The Powerpuff Girls probably had the best fate out of all these shows. The creator told his story, left of his own accord. Yeah, the movie flopped, but he seemed to make peace with it, and capped the show 2 seasons after it got really, really bad. Yeah, it kinda got milked a little, and the goddamn reboot exists, but compared to the other 2 shows, that's honestly the best case scenario. I mean, at least the reason Craig wasn't involved with the reboot was because he was busy with either Kid Cosmic or Wander Over Yonder, I don't remember. And not because the network was being awful. Now, make no mistake, the network was awful, just not to him, specifically in this specific instance. My apologies for the kind of downer ending, but I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. For once, I actually had a lot of fun writing it. I probably mentioned somewhere that I'm trying to lean more into unserious videos, because I think that's where I really shine with my video making. Speaking of which, if all of you could do me a big fat favor and go and watch my hour-long OC lore video, I would appreciate that very, very much. Also, go ahead and subscribe to my second channel. I'm gonna try and post some more like low-effort videos over there between the more polished ones. For instance, I'd like to briefly discuss why the Powerpuff Girls and the VeggieTales movie flopped at the box office, whereas the SpongeBob movie didn't, so go ahead and keep an eye on that. Go ahead and follow me on Instagram and Tumblr, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.